नमस्सर्वेभ्यः। अद्य परमलघु मंजूषायाः तृतीयः पाठः, मार्च् मासस्य 6 दिनाङ्कः। अद्य वयं शाब्दबोधस्य विषये तथा शक्तिः नाम का, शक्तेः लक्षणस्य विषये किञ्चित् पठामः। आदौ मङ्गलम्। येनाक्षरसमाम्नायमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयं। शिवन्नत्वा हि नागेशेनानिन्द्या परमा लघुः वैयाकरणसिद्धान्तमञ्जूषैषा विरच्यते। गतवर्गे किम् अधीतमिति किञ्चित् अवलोक्य अग्रे सरामः। परमलघु मंजूषायाः प्रथमं प्रकरणमस्ति शक्तिनिरूपणम् इति। तत्र आदौ उपोद्घातरूपेण स्फोटस्य प्रभेदान् निरूपयति नागेशभट्टः। स्फोटः नाम वाचकशब्दः, स्फुटत्यर्थः अस्माद् इति स्फोटः इति स्फोटस्य सामान्यनिष्पत्तिः। इतोपि वस्तुतः ग्रन्थकर्त्रा स्फोटस्य निरूपणं न कृतम्, अग्रे करिष्यते स्फोटनिरूपणम् इति प्रकरणे। सामान्यतः ज्ञानार्थं स्फुटत्यर्थः अस्मादिति स्फोटः, स्फोटशब्देन वाचकः शब्दः गृह्यते, that which expresses a meaning. So कः अर्थं अभिदधाति, कः वाचकः इति प्रश्ने अष्टविधाः स्फोटाः परिगण्यन्ते। आदौ वर्णपदवाक्यभेदेन त्रयस्फोटाः, तत्र प्रत्येकं पुनः जातिव्यक्तिभेदेन 6 भेदाः भवन्ति। वर्णस्फोटः, वर्णजातिस्फोटः, पदस्फोटः, परजातिस्फोटः, वाक्यस्फोटः, वाक्यजातिस्फोटः इति। वर्णस्फोटः इत्यस्य अर्थः प्रकृतिप्रत्ययाः। वर्णपदेन अत्र अक्षरं न गृह्यते, पदस्य अवयवाः प्रकृतिः प्रत्ययः इत्येते स्वीयं स्वीयम् अर्थं बोधयन्ति, अर्थात् वाचकाः इति वर्णस्फोटस्य अर्थः। पदं वाचकं भवति अर्थस्य इति पदस्फोटः, वाक्यं वाचकम् इति वाक्यस्फोटः। एतान् 6 भेदान् अतीत्य अखण्डपदस्फोटः, अखण्डवाक्यस्फोटः इति 2 भेदौ स्तः। यत्र विभागरहितं पदं वाचकं भवति इति अखण्डपदस्फोटः, विभागरहितं वाक्यमेव अर्थस्य वाचकम् इति अखण्डवाक्यस्फोटः। तत्र अखण्डवाक्यस्फोटः एव मुख्यः, तदेव तत्त्वम् इति वैयाकरणानां सिद्धान्तः। So according to Vaiyakaranas, the ultimate reality is अखण्डवाक्यस्फोट। किन्तु ज्ञानार्थं वाक्य अन्वाख्यानस्य लघूपायेन अशक्यत्वात् लाघवार्थं पदेषु वाक्येषु पदानि कल्प्यन्ते, तत्र पुनः प्रकृतिप्रत्ययादि विभागश्च कल्प्यते। अतः पदविभागः, पदानां प्रकृतिप्रत्ययादिविभागः इति द्वयमपि काल्पनिकम्। तेषाम् अर्थः अपि यद्यपि शास्त्रे प्रकृतेः प्रत्ययानां च अर्थाः उच्यन्ते, ते अर्थाः अपि काल्पनिकाः एव। एवं स्थानिनाम् आदेशानां च वाचकत्वं काल्पनिकम्, अखण्डवाक्यस्यैव मुख्यं वाचकत्वं, तस्यैव वस्तुतो वाचकत्वम् इति वैयाकरणाः। तत्र वर्णस्फोटस्य विषये किञ्चित् वदति। शास्त्रप्रक्रियानिर्वाहकः वर्णस्फोटः, प्रक्रियामात्रनिर्वाहार्थं। So it is only purely for the purposes of prakriya, that is to analyze words or sentences in an easier way. प्रकृतिप्रत्ययाः तत्तदर्थवाचकाः इति तदर्थः। तत्र स्थानिनाम् अर्थाः उच्यन्ते, यथा पाणिनिना उच्यते वर्तमाने लट् इत्यादि। आदेशानां तु यः स्थानिनः अर्थम् अभिधातुं समर्थः स एव आदेशो भवति इति उक्तत्वात् आदेशस्यापि स्थान्यर्थत्वमेव। उभयोरपि वाचकत्वं काल्पनिकं, मुख्यं वाचकत्वं तु पदस्य अथवा वाक्यस्य इति दृष्टम्। उपाया शिक्षमाणानां बालानाम् उपलालनाः असत्ये वर्त्मनि स्थित्वा ततः सत्यं समीहते इति वाक्यपदीये भर्तृहरिः कथयति। अतः एते सर्वेपि उपायाः, वर्णस्फोटः, पदस्फोटः, वाक्यस्फोटः इत्यादयः सर्वेपि उपेयप्रतिपत्त्यर्थम्। उपेयः अखण्डवाक्यस्फोटः, तस्य ज्ञानार्थम् एते सर्वेपि उपायाः। तदेव कौण्डभट्टेनापि कथ्यते, उपेयप्रतिपत्त्यर्थाः उपायाः अव्यवस्थिताः, अनन्ताः उपायाः भवन्ति, उपेयं वस्तु तु एकमेव। तत्र इदानीं शब्दः वाचकः, कीदृशः शब्दः, वर्णपदवाक्यम् इत्युक्त्वा अन्ते तु वाक्यम् एव वाचकम्, अतः शब्दः इत्यनेन वाक्यमेव उद्दिश्यते। तत्र शब्दः प्रमाणभूतः, प्रत्यक्ष अनुमान उपमान शब्दाः प्रमाणानि इति न्यायसूत्रे उच्यते। तत्र इन्द्रियजन्यम् इन्द्रियसन्निकर्षजन्यं ज्ञानं प्रत्यक्षं, व्याप्तिज्ञानजन्यम् अनुमानं, सादृश्यज्ञान करणकं ज्ञानम् उपमानम् अथवा उपमितिः, शाब्दबोधः शब्दस्य अर्थज्ञानपूर्वकं यज्ञानम् उत्पद्यते सः शाब्दबोधः इत्युच्यते। एतेषां सर्वेषामपि प्रमाणत्वम् अस्माभिः दृष्टम्। Any questions in what we did in the previous class? अस्तु, अत्र पठामः। तत्र प्रत्यक्ष अनुमान उपमान शब्दाः प्रमाणानि इति गौतमसूत्रे शब्दश्च आप्तोपदेशरूपः प्रमाणम्। यदा शब्दः प्रमाणम् इत्युच्यते तत्र सर्वविधस्यापि शब्दस्य प्रामाण्यं नाम प्रमाज्ञानजनकत्वं। प्रमा नाम निश्चितं ज्ञानं, ज्ञानं द्विविधं, प्रमा तथा भ्रमः। अतः तत्र प्रमाजनकं प्रमाणम् इत्युच्यते। सर्वविधस्यापि शब्दस्य प्रमाणत्वं नास्ति। आप्तोपदेशः, आप्तवाक्यं शब्दः इत्युच्यते, आप्तोपदेशरूपस्यैव शब्दस्य प्रामाण्यम्। आप्तः नाम कः? आप्तो नाम अनुभवेन वस्तुतत्त्वस्य कार्त्स्न्येन निश्चयवान्, रागादिवशादपि न अन्यथावादी यः सः इति चरके पतञ्जलिः। आप्तः कः? अनुभवेन वस्तुतत्त्वस्य कार्त्स्न्येन निश्चयवान्, यः वस्तूनां तत्त्वं कार्त्स्न्येन पूर्णतया यद्यद् ज्ञातव्यं तत्सर्वमपि निश्चितरूपेण जानाति, अनुभवेन स्वानुभव सिद्धं यस्य ज्ञानं, तथा रागादिवशादपि न अन्यथावादी, रागद्वेषादिना केनापि कारणेन अन्यथा न कथयति। वस्तुतत्त्वं जानाति, वस्तुतत्त्वमेव कथयति। केचन जानीयुः किन्तु रागादिवशात्, एषः जानाति चेत् मम क्लेशः स्यात् इत्यादि वा येन केनापि कारणेन न वदेत्, किन्तु यः जानाति तदेव कथयति सः आप्तः इति चरके पतञ्जलिः। पतञ्जलिः शास्त्रत्रयस्य कर्ता इति प्रसिद्धः। योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचा मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन। चरकशास्त्रं वस्तुतः पतञ्जलिनिर्मितम् इति प्रतीतिः तत्र उच्यते इति नागेशः अत्र कथयति। सः आप्तः, तादृशस्य आप्तस्य कथनं प्रमाणम् इति शब्दः। तर्हि कथं शब्दात् अर्थः ज्ञायते? How do we understand meaning from a word? Okay. अयं शाब्दबोधः। शाब्दबोधः कथं भवति इति प्रश्ने कथयति। तद्धर्मावच्छिन्न विषयक शाब्दबुद्धित्वावच्छिन्नं प्रति तद्धर्मावच्छिन्न निरूपित वृत्तिविशिष्टज्ञानं हेतुः इति लक्षणं दीयते। So such definitions are normal, especially in the texts of Nagesha. As I told earlier, Nagesha was trained very well in the Nyaya style of writing. So he is this is seen in mainly Nyaya texts, but such writing is characteristic of most of the modern texts of all shastras, okay, most modern commentaries. So there is a particular style of writing which includes this, avachinna and dharma vishayaka. It tries to, it's a exact way of conveying something. So no need to get scared by such long sentences. I mean, initially they will seem intimidating, but such sentences always you take it word by word and understand what it means. So over time, you will learn to analyze it better. Initially, yes, they'll seem rather difficult to comprehend. As we go on, as we relate each such definition to examples and see what it means, it becomes clear. Okay, it requires training to read and understand such definitions. It is not, if you are unable to understand it now, there is nothing wrong with it. Okay, it will require some samskara to be able to read such sentences and actually understand what they are conveying. So what he is trying to define here is, how does Shabda Bodha happen? What is the reason or the karana for Shabda Bodha? What are the factors, causative factors, which are essential for Shabda Bodha to occur? That is for comprehension. If I say ghata and you understand a pot, so what are the factors which are essential in such an understanding? So तद्धर्मावच्छिन्न विषयक शाब्दबुद्धित्वावच्छिन्नं प्रति तद्धर्मावच्छिन्न निरूपित वृत्तिविशिष्टज्ञानं हेतुः. हेतुः नाम कारणं. किं प्रति कारणं? शाब्दबुद्धित्व अवच्छिन्नं प्रति. So the शाब्दबोधं प्रति इत्यर्थः. For understanding. Understanding what? Tadharmavachinna vishayaka shabdabodham. Understanding a vishaya, an object, which is endowed with tadharma, a particular attribute. You should understand, whenever we talk of ghata, so there is a property which, or attribute, which defines that padartha. Okay, that is tadharma. Say for example, if we are talking ghata, so tadharmaha ghatatvam. Ghata is a class of objects. Okay, so tadharmaha ghatatvam. Tadharma avachinna vishayaka. Ghatatva-avachinna vishayakaha nama ghataha. So a ghata which is identified by the attribute of ghatatva. Tasya shabda-buddhitva-avachinnam prati. To understand the word ghata, which is identified by the attribute of ghatatva, what do we require? Kim hetuhu? Tadharmavachinna nirupita vrittivishishta-jnanam hetuhu. Vrittivishishta-jnanam hetuhu. We should understand a vritti. Okay, a jnana endowed with vritti. Vrittya vishishtam jnanam hetuhu. And that vritti is again qualified by tadharmavachinna. So tadharmavachinna is the common factor in both cases. So we will leave it for now. So what do we need for Shabda Bodha? We need vritti vishishta jnana, an understanding of the vritti. Okay, vrittihi nama pada padartha sambandha. He will define it later. So vritti is the relation between a word and its meaning. Vrittihi nama pada padartha sambandha saha jnatavyaha. So what he is saying is, you should understand vritti. Vrittya eva shabdabodhaha bhavati. Vrittigyanena shabdabodhaha. Vrittigyana, the understanding of vritti, is required for shabdabodha. Atayeva na agrihita vrittikasya shabdabodhaha. That is why if somebody has not understood vritti, vrittigyana rahitasya, agrihita vrittikasya ityasya vrittigyana rahitasya, he who does not know vritti cannot comprehend a word. So if I tell you a word which you are unfamiliar with, you will not be able to understand it because of the absence of vrittigyana. Vrittigyanam shabdabodhe hetuhu. So the cause for understanding, or the factor which is necessary for understanding something for Shabda Bodha, is Vrittigyanam. Atayeva na agrihita vrittikasya Shabda Bodhaha. Atayeva cha, नहि गुड इत्युक्ते मधुरत्वं प्रकारतया गम्यते इति समर्थसूत्रभाष्यं संगच्छते. And also when we say vritti vishishta jnanam, we saw that tadharmavachinna ityubhayatra asit. Tadharmavachinna vishayaka shabda buddhitva avachinnam prati tadharmavachinna niropita vritti vishishta jnanam hetuhu. So in both cases, the identifying attribute should be defined. Okay. So when you are saying guda, okay, gudaha ityukte, gudaha means jaggery. Okay, so the attribute which defines jaggery is gudatva, a class gudatva. So even though guda is always sweet, gude madhuryam bhavati, tathapi gudaha ityukte madhuratvam prakarataya nahi gamyate. Madhuratva is not the attribute tadharma for the word guda. Okay, यदा गुडः इति शब्दः उच्चार्यते तदा प्रकारतया गुडत्वमेव गम्यते न तु मधुरत्वम्. So when we are saying guda, when we use the word guda, we are identifying the substance by its class called gudatva. We are not identifying it by the property called madhuratva. Okay, it is, even though madhuratva is present in guna, the identifying attribute is gudatva and not madhuratva. That is why we have that tadharmavachinna vishayaka shabda buddhitva avachinnam prati tadharmavachinna nirupita vritti vishishta jnanam hetuhu. So the identifying attribute for the word guda is gudatva, not madhuratva. नहि गुड इत्युक्ते मधुरत्वं प्रकारतया गम्यते इति समर्थसूत्रभाष्यं संगच्छते. गुडादिशब्देन गुडत्वजात्यवच्छिन्नः गुडपदवाच्यः इत्येव बोधः जातिप्रकारकः. So गुडादिशब्देन, when we use words like guda, the bodha, the understanding is of a class of substance. It is not the guna of a substance that we are understanding by the word, it is the jati. गुडत्व जात्यवच्छिन्नः गुडपदवाच्यः. गुडपदस्य कः पदार्थः? गुडत्व जात्यवच्छिन्नः इति बोधः, शाब्दबोधः जातिप्रकारकः. So prakara is a visheshana, okay, a common term used. Madhuratvam tu, but it is true that we immediately, whenever somebody says guda, we think of madhurya, sweetness. Kintu tattu sakshat shabdabodhah na. It is not the jnana directly arising due to the understanding of the word guda. Okay. Madhuratvam tu gudo madhuraha aikshavatvad iti anumana rupa manantara gamyam. Gudapade ukte madhuryam spurati. Kintu kena pramanena shabda pramanena na. Shabda pramanena gudatva jatyavachinnaha ityeva bodhaha bhavati. Madhurya rupa bodhaha tu अनुमान प्रमाणेन लभ्यते. कीदृशम् अनुमानं? गुडो मधुरः ऐक्षवत्वात्. ऐक्षवम्, इक्षोः सम्पन्नम् ऐक्षवम्, that which is derived from ikshu or sugar cane. Gudo madhuraha aikshavattvat. So all matter that we get derived from sugar cane are sweet. Okay. So because of that anumana, yatra yatra aikshavatvam tatra tatra madhuryam. Wherever there is a derivative of sugar cane, there is sweetness. So evam vyaptijanyam jnanam madhuryam. So because of that we associate madhurya with guda. It is through anumana, not shabda. Okay. So shabda bodhastu gudatvajatyavatchinnaha gudaha ityeva. मधुरत्वन्तु गुडो मधुरः ऐक्षवत्वाद् इति अनुमानरूपमानान्तरगम्यम्. विशेष्य विशेषण भाव व्यत्यासेन गृहीत शक्तिकस्य पुंसः घटपदात् घटत्व विशिष्ट बोधवारणाय तद्धर्मावच्छिन्न इति. So the normal understanding is घटत्वावच्छिन्नः घटः. घट which is endowed with the attribute of ghatatva, ghatatva jati, ghatatva jatyavachinnaha ghataha iti bodhaha. Kadachit visheshya visheshana bhava vyatyasena grihita shakti kasya pumsaha. So somebody, he is confused with the visheshana visheshya. Atra gudatva jatihi visheshanam अथवा घटत्व जातिः विशेषणं घटः गुडः इत्यादि विशेष्यं. So that is the normal understanding. So if somebody understands it in the reverse, that is घटावच्छिन्नं घटत्वम् इत्यादि विशेषण विशेष्य भाव व्यत्यासेन गृहीत शक्तिकस्य पुंसः घटपदात् घटत्व विशिष्ट बोधवारणाय तद्धर्मावच्छिन्न इति. So what he says is, in whichever manner you understand the Shakti, the Shabda Bodha will be similar. So if your Shakti Jnana says Ghatatvavachinnaha Ghataha, that is the Shabda Bodha which arises. If the Visheshana Vishesha Bhava is reversed at the stage of understanding the Shakti, then the Shabda Bodha will also be reversed. Atayeva Tadharmavachinna विषयक शाब्द बुद्धित्वावच्छिन्नं प्रति तद्धर्मावच्छिन्न निरूपित वृष्टि विशिष्ट ज्ञानम हेतुः. So whichever you are understanding as visheshya and visheshana, the same will remain for the shabda bodha. So that is why we have the adjective tadharmavachinna for both. ज्ञाने वृत्ति वैशिष्ट्यं च स्वविषयक उद्बुद्ध संस्कार सामानाधिकरण्य स्वाश्रय पद विषयकत्व उभय संबंधेन बोध्यम्. अत्र वृत्ति विशिष्ट ज्ञानम् इति उक्तम्. वृत्ति विशिष्टं ज्ञानम्. ज्ञाने वृत्ति वैशिष्ट्यं नाम किम्? So how will understanding be endowed with vritti? ज्ञाने वृत्ति वैशिष्ट्यं कीदृशं भवति इति चेत् सम्बन्धद्वयेन भवति इत्युच्यते. ज्ञाने वृत्तिवैशिष्ट्यं च स्वविषयक उद्बुद्ध संस्कार सामानाधिकरण्य स्वाश्रय पदविषयकत्व उभय सम्बन्धेन बोध्यम्. So it says the vritti being the jnana being endowed with vritti means two things. First thing, there is a udbuddha samskara. There is an active samskara relating to that vritti. That is, you must have earlier had a samskara which associated with that vritti. Svavishayaka udbuddha samskara samanadhikaranya. Along with that, swashraya pada vishayakatva. You should also have earlier known the pada, which is the object of that vritti, which is ashraya for that vritti. स्वविषयक उद्बुद्ध संस्कार सामानाधिकरण्य स्वाश्रय पद विषयकत्व उभय संबंधेन बोध्यम्. So the knowledge of the word and a previous samskara which associates that vritti with that particular word. So that is vritti vishishtam jnanam. So the understanding is based on two things. First is knowing the word, and second thing, a samskara which associates an earlier samskara which samskara is always earlier, so there is no need to qualify it. A samskara which associates that vritti with that particular word. Jnane vritti vaishishtyam cha svavishayaka udbuddha samskara samanadhikaranya swashraya pada vishayakatva ubhaya sambandhena bodhyam. So what we are saying basically is to understand Shabda Bodham Prati Tadharmavachinna Vishayaka Shabda Buddhitvavacchinnam Prati Tadharmavachinna Nirupita Vritti Vishishta Jnanam Hetuhu. So Shabda Bodham Prati Vritti Vishishta Jnanam Hetuhu. Simply put, to understand a word, we need an understanding of a jnana of the vritti related to that word. Okay? So that jnana has two components. One is pada vishayakatvam, the knowing or knowledge of the pada which is ashraya for the vritti, and then a samskara which associates the vritti with that word. So if you have both of these, you know the word and you know that there is the vritti, the pada padartha sambandha, in what sense that word is used. It's basically knowing you know a word and its meaning. Okay, so how do you put that in shastric term? That is what he is doing. Okay, so we all know, to understand a word, we would have previously heard of the word and we have some samskara which says, okay, this word means this thing. And that is, one is samskara and then swashraya pada vishayakatva. So when we have this jnana, vritti vishishta jnana, there is shabda bodha. So there is one more thing associated with that Shabda Bodha, which is Tadharma. The Shabda Bodha, the direct understanding from by a word, always carries as its attribute Tadharma, a particular attribute. So when we are identifying a word as a class, I mean an object as belonging to a class of beings like Guda or Gauhu. Okay, so tatra gotvam prakarataya gamyate. So the identifying attribute there is gotva. Okay, so if you are identifying the same object as a pashu, as just animal, the identifying attribute is pashutva. Okay, so the same object you could be identifying it through different things. So if you are identifying a cow as kapila of the color, kapila color, then the identifying attribute is kapilatva, guna. If you are identifying a cow as say Gauri by its name as Gauri, then the samnya Gauritva is the prakara. So the identifying attribute depends on how you are understanding it. So you cannot understand the word cow to mean something which is Kapila. The word cow is identified by the property of Gotva, the class Gotva. The word Kapila is identified by the property of a guna, which is Kapilatva, and so on. Okay. So that is what he says here. We will read this again from the previous page. If you don't understand, please do ask. Tadharmavachinna. So what we did so far, we understood what is a word, what are the different kinds of words which can be vachaka, that is varna, pada and vakya. So vachakatva can be at different levels. So vakya can express meaning as a whole, or a pada can express meaning as a whole, or it can be divided. So prakriti and pratyaya expresses meaning on their own, a pada expresses its meaning on its own, and vakya on its own. Okay, so there are different levels at which we have vachakatva. So this shabda, whichever we take it, the vachaka shabda is a means of knowledge. Okay, so there are different kinds. The Vyakarana Siddhanta is akhanda vakya, but whatever it is, shabda is a pramana. If it is aptavakya, aptavakyam shabdaha pramanam, it is a means of knowledge. So how does that knowledge arise? The knowledge is shabda bodha. Shabdena yad jnanam utpadyate tasya shabda bodhaha iti nama. Katham bhavati saha shabda bodhaha? How does that shabda bodha happen? Tadharmavachinna vishayaka shabda buddhittvavacchinnam prati tadharmavachinna nirupita vritti vishishta jnanam hetuhu. So for shabda bodha, hetu is vritti vishishta jnana. Knowing the vritti associated with that word, okay, is the hetu for shabda bodha. Ataeva na agrihita vrittikasya shabda bodha. So which means if you do not know the vritti, you will not have the shabda bodha, you will not understand it. Ataeva cha nahi gudaha ityukte madhuratvam prakarataya gamyate iti samartha sutra bhashyam sangachyate. And it is always the shabda bodha is with respect to the attribute. Okay, you are identifying it through some attribute. You are identifying a padartha through an attribute. You cannot identify a padartha without the attribute. So prakaraha sarvatra bhavatyeva. So gudadi shabdena gudatva jatyavachinnaha gudapadavachyaha ityeva bodhaha jati prakarakaha. So when we utter a term guda, the bodha, the knowledge which arises is gudatva jatyavachinnaha gudapadavachyaha. So the meaning is something which is endowed with the attribute of gudatva, which is a class, jati. Madhuratva prakarakaha bodhaha guda shabdena na bhavati. So when we are saying the word guda, the prakara, the attribute, identifying attribute, there is the gudatva jati and not the madhurya guna. Madhuratvantu gudo madhuraha aikshavatvad iti anumana rupa manantara gamyam. Visheshya visheshana bhava vyatyasena grihita shakti kasya pumsaha ghatapadat ghatatva vishishta bodhavaranaya tadharmavachinna iti. So the visheshana tadharmavachinna in both the karya and karana. in the definition which he provided, the karya karana bhava, both the terms have tadharmavachinna. Tadharmavachinna vishayaka shabda buddhitvavacchinnam prati tadharmavachinna nirupita vritti vishishta jnanam hetuhu. So in both cases it is tadharmavachinna because the property is very important. So if you understand vritti in the reverse, that is, you understand ghata as visheshana and ghatatva as visheshya, your knowledge will also be reversed. You cannot have the correct knowledge out of it. Jnane vritti vaishishtyam cha, and this jnana, vritti vishishta jnana, has two components. Svavishayaka udbuddha samskara. So one is an active samskara, that is, you might have known it earlier and you might have forgotten it. So if the samskara is not udbuddha, you will still not understand the word. Okay, a new word, you learn it today, so 10 days later you might have forgotten it. So if the samskara is not udbuddha, shabda bodha will not happen. Svavishayaka udbuddha samskara samanadhikaranya. So along with it, svashraya pada vishayakatva. So understanding the word which is associated with that vritti. Ubhaya sambandhena bodhyam. So both of these are required in that jnana, vritti vishishta jnana. So if such a jnana exists, an understanding of the presence of a samskara related, an active samskara of a vritti, along with the knowledge of the pada, which is the ashraya for that vritti, then you will have shabda bodha, understanding of that shabda. Ataha, therefore, because all these factors are essential, na agrihita vrittikasya, yaha vritti jnanameva na janati, he who does not know vritti, napi vismrita vrittikasya, vrittim janati vismritavan, tasyapi shabdabodho na bhavati iti ante. Ataha na agrihita vrittikasya, napi vismrita vrittikasya, napi tat padam ajanataha, he who does not know that pada. So knowledge of the pada is also important. Okay, so you have forgotten the word itself. Say, I mean, there are some similar sounding words, so maybe you have forgotten the word. Okay, so there is karaha and kharaha. Okay, so you know, say you have learned kara or khara as a donkey, but you know the vritti and you still remember that it is the vritti, but you have forgotten kharaha, the word itself. Your memory says it is karaha. So then you will not have the shabda bodha. So not napi tat padam ajanataha. So if you do not know the vritti, agrihita vrittikasya, vismrita vrittikasya, padam ajanataha. So knowing the vritti is essential. It is first understanding the vritti. First getting the jnana of the vritti is essential. Maintaining that samskara is also essential. Knowing that word is also essential. Napi ghatapada ashrayatvena upasthita akashasya. So these three, napi tatpadam ajanataha bodhaha. So for all of these three, he who does not know vritti, vritti jnana rahitasya, vismrita vrittikasya, tat padam ajanataha, padajnana rahitasya cha bodhaha na bhavati. Also, napi ghatapada ashrayatvena upasthita akashasya bodhaha. So when we are talking of ghata, it is only the bodha. What takes part in the bodha? Tadharmavachinna vishayaka shabda buddhihi. So the shabda buddhi, the bodha, is endowed only with tadharma, the identifying attribute. So when we say ghata, ghatattvavachinnaha ghataha ityeva bodhaha bhavati. So we understand it as ghata endowed with the property of ghatatva. We do not understand akasha. Even though the ghata pada, all words are akashashraya. Etohi shabdaha shabdagunakam akasham. Shabda exists in akasha. But ghatapada ashrayatvena upasthitasya akashasya bodhaha na bhavati ghatapadena. You will not understand it because it is not tadharma. It is not the identifying attribute. The vritti does not have include akasha. Napi janakataya upasthita chaitradehe. So the person who utters that word, say chaitraha kashchit, chaitraha yadi chaitraha ghataha iti kathayati, तत्र घटपदेन घटत्वावच्छिन्नः घटः इत्येव बोधः भवति तद्धर्मावच्छिन्ननिरूपितवृत्तिविशिष्टज्ञानम्. Okay, so the vritti which is defined by that attribute, it is only that which you will understand and not other factors which may be present. Say Akasha does not take part in the Shabda Bodha. Chaitra, the one who utters, also will not take part in the Shabda Bodha. Okay. Now he says samskara, udbuddha samskara. So samskara is required. How do we know that samskara exists? Samskaraha asti ityatra kim pramanam? Samskara kalpika cha vrittihi smritireva. The fact that you remember itself points to samskara, because if you don't have the samskara, you will not have smriti. Okay. So the fact that you remember the meaning proves that there is samskara. Samskara kalpika cha vrittihi smritireva shabda buddhireva va. Or just the fact that you understand it means you remember it. So you remember it means there is a samskara. Okay. So samskara is not pratyaksha. You cannot directly see samskara, but the presence of samskara is inferred by the fact that you remember it, or just by the fact that you understand it. So to understand, you must remember the association. To remember the association, you need that samskara. Okay. So how does Shabda Bodha happen? Shabda Bodha happens because of Vritti Vishishta Jnanam. Any questions? Okay, there are a couple of questions. So in a sthula form, can we say that vritti is a thought or feeling? No, vritti is not a feeling. Vritti is pada padartha sambandha, the relation between pada and padartha. Okay, so we will read more about vritti, different kinds of vritti. So we will see more about what exactly is vritti or how, because if you come to Shakti, there are three kinds of vritti. So Tarkikas or Nayayikas say Ishvarecha vritti, whereas he proves that it is a sambandha. Okay, it is a relation. What kind of a sambandha is also described later. Okay, so vritti is pada-padartha sambandha. Okay. So now there are a few more questions. So according to this discussion, for someone who has never seen a cow, is it not possible to understand what is a cow? For someone who is not, what it means is, it is not understanding what is a cow. What we are talking is only Shabda Bodha. So from the word Gauhu, you understand Gotvavachinna Gauhu. Okay, we are talking only about Shabda Bodha and not of other kinds of knowledge. Okay, you could understand, I mean, even if you have not seen a cow, maybe you could understand it by Upamana. Like say, Go Sadrisho Gavayaha. So there is somebody who does not know what is a Gavaya. So he can be made to understand by Upamana. So Pratyaksha, direct seeing is one way of knowledge. So there is possible Anumana in some cases, or say Upamana. So there are other means of understanding. But if you do not have the samskara that the word go conveys this particular thing, you will not understand the word go. It is only Shabda Bodha we are talking about, not other kinds of knowledge. Okay. So the question of he who has never seen a cow, you are talking about pratyaksha. I mean, seeing the cow and understanding what is a cow is pratyaksha. Seeing a cow, what happens in this is actually, as he says later, vyavahara. A boy, that is kids when they are, and that is the next question proposed, there will always be a first time of learning something where there is no samskara. Correct. There it is not just shabda. What happens is a kid sees a cow and he hears the word cow by Vriddha Vyavahara. The major this thing of knowledge is Vriddha Vyavahara. We will see this again. Even there it is not just a word. Say somebody says Ghatamanaya. That is how they explain. Ghatamanaya. The kid is seeing. So maybe parents conversing. So somebody says Ghatamanaya. The other person brings a ghata. Then they say Ghatamnaya. He takes away the ghata. So by this process, initially he understands Ghatamanaya as one complete sentence and he associates with bringing a pot. Okay. Then he understands another sentence, Ghatamnaya, and he associates with taking away the thing. And then slowly he understands, okay, the ghata here stands for the pot. Okay, and then anaya, naya. So there is further splitting of vakya into pada happens later. Okay, that is how they say. So the first time when you are understanding it, it is not pure shabda bodha. Okay, so the shabda bodha, pure shabda bodha occurs only when there is samskara. So if there is no earlier samskara, it is not possible for shabda bodha if there is no earlier vritti vishishta jnana. Okay, so the next question, what exactly is gudatva? Gudatva is just the class. I mean, what they say is a jati. So is it a collection of properties, meaning it is not identified as, it is not seen as a collection of properties. Okay, it is just an identifier of a class. It might have several, say when we say gotva, there are several things that come to the mind. That everything together is gotva. Okay, we do not identify specific components to the jati. So is it vritti vishishta padajnanam? No, vritti vishishta jnanam. So jnanam is of vritti, involves both the samskara of the vritti and the knowledge of the pada. So it has both components. Any other questions? Okay, so there's a question, using nyaya can we say sasnadimatvam gotvam? Yeah, I mean that is, they define the lakshana of go. So you'll have to come up with the exact lakshana of go. So that together, put together is gotva. Okay. So all attributes which serve to define that particular class is gotva. So what is the difference between gotva and pashutva? When we say gotva, we mean a cow, that is the class of being a cow. But pashutva is, say, an animal. We are identifying the cow as an animal. So the identifying factors for identifying a pashu are different from identifying it as a gauhu. Okay. So when we are saying, when we are understanding a cow as an animal, we are not referring to the specific properties of a cow. We are referring to common properties which are present across all pashus. Okay, so pashutva is a broader jati. We always have class, we'll have subclass, we'll have subclasses. Okay, so pashutva is a vyapaka jati and gotva is a vyapya jati. So if you say even padarthatva, so being a padartha, being some padartha, it is a very vyapaka jati. Everything is a padartha. Whereas a particular cow, vyakti is the most, the constricted thing, because it exists only in that individual and in no other things. Anything which exists in more than one individual is a jati. Okay? It could be a very small jati, it could be a bigger jati or an even bigger one. So there has to be a 1:1 mapping between object and class. I wouldn't say it's a 1:1 mapping, but you cannot see jati without associating with a vyakti. I mean, you cannot perceive jati without the help of a vyakti. So jati always exists in all individuals belonging to that class. So it is not 1:1, as in, I mean, for all individual instances of guda, you have the common jati called gudatva. Okay, so vyaktayaha anantaha, jatihi eka. So even though there are 100 say phones, I mean hundreds of types of phones, we all identify all of them by saying it's a mobile phone. Okay, so further the identification could be as, okay, this is a Samsung or this is a Sony or whatever. Okay, further there could be identifications of the particular model of the mobile phone. Okay, so they are all jatis. So vyakti, my particular phone is a vyakti. Okay, it belongs to an infinite number of jatis, depending on whether you are, if you are identifying it as a mobile phone, there are some particular properties you have it in mind. So but if you are identifying it as a smartphone, so there are a few more attributes which add to it being a smartphone. So that is again a jati. So being a particular kind of smartphone is again a jati. Okay, so jati exists in individuals. Okay, in all individuals of that particular class. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll go ahead. Anytime if you have questions, you can answer, or if my answer is not convincing or you have further questions based on the answer, also you can ask. Since these are the initial classes of an Arthika Grantha, we will try to, I mean, it might take some time to get used to the terminology of this kind of Grantha. You should remember that different kinds of texts have different kinds of their own language. I mean, even though Parama Laghu Manjusha is a Vyakarana Grantha, just like say Siddhanta Kaumudi, the way you understand Kaumudi is not the way you understand Parama Laghu Manjusha, because it has its own language, its own style. Okay, so once you are familiar with that, uh, understanding a text becomes easier. Okay, so our aim is to understand that spirit of that text. What is it that the text, what is the language used, what is the kind of meaning it is trying to convey, and how do we approach it. So the approach must be different, and for a new kind of text it will take some time to get adjusted. So there's one more question. When we say Gotva, does characters of all animals come within it? No, not at all. When we say Gotva, it is the class of cow. So it is only the unique attributes of the cow which is conveyed by Gotva. When I say Pashutva, common characters of all Pashus might come into picture. Okay. So Gotva is a jati which is specific to all cows. So it identifies the properties which are common to all cows. Okay. Okay, so we'll move ahead now. So we understood Sphota and the kinds. So we understood that the Vachaka is a Shabda. So Shabda Sphota is roughly equivalent to Shabda. Okay, so there are different kinds. So now this Shabda is Pramana, a means of knowledge, and the knowledge which is arising out of Shabda is called Shabda Bodha. So for Shabda Bodha to arise, we necessarily must have the Vritti Vishishta Jnana, which is identified along associated with that particular attribute. Okay, tad dharma. Okay, and the dharma need not be jati. I said, I mean, somebody asked, does it mean it the vritti connects a word to its jati? It is not always jati. It can be guna, it can be samnya, it can be kriya. Okay, there are 4 kinds of words: jati vachaka, guna vachaka, samnya vachaka, and kriya vachakas. So it could be any of those. When I say something is neela, we are identifying by the attribute of blueness, neelatva, which is a guna and not a jati. You could identify a thing by chalatva, something is moving, or nishchalatva, it's a kriya. Okay, chala is a kriya. Or you could identify it by its name, samnya. So vritti is that which connects the pada to its identifying attribute, the padartha. Need not be always jati. So if go is a subjati of animal jati, then it has all features of the animal too. Yes, it will. I mean, the subjatis will have the characteristics of the jatis to which they belong. But gotva, when we are saying gotva, it is not the specific lakshana has to include that which is unique to the cow and not to other things. Okay, so these are, I think, I mean, a basic study of Tarka texts like Tarka Sangraha would be very useful in understanding higher granthas of any shastra. That is why we say Kanadam Paniniyam cha Sarvashastropakarakam. Knowing Kanada, Nyaya Shastra, and knowing Vyakarana. Vyakarana is not in Vyakarana Darshana, but the basic Vyakarana is essential for understanding any Shastra, because these concepts are the concepts of Nyaya. Okay, the Jati, the Dravya, the Guna, and the Prakara, etc. So, anyway, so we understood Shabda Bodha. How does the Shabda Bodha occur? Because of Vritti Vishishta Jnana, and that Vritti Vishishta Jnana has two components. One is the Udbuddha Samskara and the other is the Padajnana. So when all these are present, we have Shabda Bodha. So Yadi Agrihita Vrittihi, if you have not caught vritti, the vritti jnana has not arisen the first time, you will not have Shabda Bodha. Vismrita vritti kasya, if you have forgotten it, there is no Shabda Bodha. Tat padam ajanataha, if you do not know the word, there is no Shabda Bodha. And unrelated attributes like the ashraya of the aka of that Shabda, which is Akasha, or the Janaka, etc., they are not part of Shabda Bodha. Okay, तद्धर्मावच्छिन्न विषयक शाब्द बुद्धित्वा अवच्छिन्नं प्रति तद्धर्मावच्छिन्न निरूपित वृत्ति विशिष्ट ज्ञानम हेतुः. Okay, so now the vritti, sa cha vritti tridha, that vritti which helps us understand a shabda is of three kinds: shakti, lakshana, vyanjana cha. So shakti, lakshana, and vyanjana are the three kinds of sambandha which a shabda has with its shabdartha. Okay, so we will define each of these. Each of these is a chapter in the Parama Laghu Manjusha: Shakti Nirupanam, Lakshana Nirupanam, and Vyanjana Nirupanam. So to be very quick, let's have a basic understanding of what are these three. So Shakti refers to the direct meaning of a word. Okay, so there are three substances always in each of these. Shakti is the sambandha, Shaktam padam, Shakyaha arthaha. Shakti is a sambandha. Sambandha is present in both pada, in both the word and its meaning. Okay, so the one which connects the pada and artha is Shakti. The pada is called Shakta and the artha is called Shakya. So Shakyartha is that word which is direct, that meaning which is directly conveyed by a word. Okay, say for example, if I say Simhaha, a lion. Okay, so there is a padartha which is, we know that animal Simha, lion. Okay, it has a particular attributes. So that is the Shakyartha, the direct meaning of the word is called the Shakyartha, and that sambandha is called Shakti, the direct sambandha between a word and its meaning, which it always expresses in spite of other things. So then there is Lakshana. Shakyartha badhaha Lakshana. There are Lakshana or Lakshyartha is that meaning which arises when the Shakyartha does not fit in some cases. Say when I say Simhaha, we understand Simha as, say, a four-legged animal which has its manes and claws and whatever are the attributes of Simha. Okay. When I say something like Ayam balakaha simhaha, saying I am from balakaha you get a boy and from simha you get a simha, but it does not fit. The boy is not a lion. He is not really a lion. So there is shakyartha badha. The direct meaning of the word simha is does not fit. Okay, so in such cases we say lakshanaya simha sadrishyam. Sadrishyam cha viryena. He is brave or courageous like the lion. We will not say, when say I am balakaha simhaha, normally you will not understand it to mean say the boy has a mane like a lion or that he has a tail like a lion. So what we take is the virya or courage. Okay, that is the lakshyartha. Shakyartha badhe sati lakshyartha. Okay, so it is the meaning which arises when the shakyartha does not fit. So when I say Gangayam Ghoshaha, which is again a very standard example, there is a village in the Ganga. So village cannot exist. The main meaning of the word Ganga, shakyartha, is the pravaha, the river, water, okay, the flow of water. But it is not possible for a grama or a ghosha, a cowherd village, to exist within the water. So we say the direct meaning of the word Ganga is badhita. So we take a connected meaning saying Ganga tire ghoshaha. So the lakshyartha, it is something related to the shakyartha. So when we say simha sadrishaha, it is a courage which is related to the simha. So here it is tira which is related to the simha. So which particular that shakyartha may be related to an infinite number of things. Which particular thing to take will depend on the context. Okay, so that is lakshyartha. Vyangyartha is an additional meaning which is conveyed without shakyartha badha. The shakyartha is there, but along with the direct meaning, it will convey some additional meaning. The famous example given for Vyangya is Gatostam Arkaha. Arkaha Astangataha. The sun is set. The shakyartha is fine. The sun is set. That is it. But this particular phrase will convey different things to different people based on many things. Okay, so shakyartha is general. I mean, it is specific. When I say specific, it means it is fixed. Okay, so lakshyartha, generally depending on a particular context, it is also fixed. But vyangyartha is subjective. It is depending on who is listening to it. They can derive different vyangyarthas based on their own anubhava. Say Gatostam Arkaha, the sun has set. If I say it to my friend, if our usual practice is to go for a walk at sunset, so Gatostam Arkaha also means can we go for a walk? Okay, so without saying that, this will convey that meaning. Or we are doing something and somebody remarks Gatostam Arkaha, it could be a signal to mean, okay, let us stop this for today and do it tomorrow. So it is purely subjective based on who is part of the conversation. So if the same sentence is told to a different one, they will interpret it differently based on their samskara. Okay, such meaning is called Vyangya. There is no badha of the shakyartha. The shakyartha is still there. The sun sets, true, which is there, but it also conveys an additional meaning which is subjective. That is called Vyangya. So these are the three kinds of artha, or the kinds of vritti, sambandha, which exists between pada and padartha. So in this chapter he will say what is Shakti. Tatra Shakti kah padarthaha iti chet. So how do we define Shakti? Okay. So we will quickly do a recap of what we did today. Any questions? So we saw pramanani, pratyaksha, anumana, upamana shabdaha pramanam. Shabdaha cha aptavakya rupaha pramanam. So not all shabda is pramana. It is aptavakyam. Aptascha anubhavataha nishchayena karsnena nishchaya jnanavan. He who knows tattva jnana fully, and ragadi vashadapi na anyathavadi. Okay, such shabda is treated as pramana. So shabdajanyam jnanam shabda bodhaha. The jnana which arises due to shabda is called shabda bodha. So shabda bodhaha katham bhavati taddharmavachinna vishayaka shabda buddhitva avachinnam prati taddharmavachinna nirupita vritti vishishta jnanam hetuhu. शाब्दबुद्धित्वावच्छिन्नं प्रति अर्थात शाब्दबोधं प्रति वृत्तिविशिष्टज्ञानं हेतुः. So for understanding or for shabdabodha to occur, vrittivishishta is essential. So jnane vritti vaishishtyam. So vritti vishishta jnanam has two components. Svavishayaka udbuddha samskara samanadhikaranyam. So possessing a samskara, an active samskara related to that vritti, swashraya pada vishayakatvam, and also the jnana which has the pada, the a pada which is ashraya for that vritti as the vishaya. Okay. So both of them is required for shabda bodha. Okay. So that vritti is of three kinds. Padapadartha sambandhaha vrittihi, shaktihi lakshana vyanjana iti tisraha vrittayaha. Okay. So next we will define what is shakti. Okay. Any questions or shall we stop here? So there's a question, how do we know if a shabda is aptavakya? Well, actually out of scope for this class, but yeah, there is a discussion in that. Finally they say is Vedavakyam. It is basically the Vedic Vakyas which is Aptavakya. So in Laukika it is difficult to define Apta because I mean we do not have the knowledge enough to identify who is an Apta. Okay. So Vedavakyam Sarvamapi Pramanam. Okay. So Loke, if we identify the apta, as we said, we know the identifying characteristics of the apta. Yaha nishchaya jnanavan katsnena ragadivashadapi nanyathavadi. Tadrisham vakyam aptavakyam. Anyatha sarvamapi na aptavakyam ityeva siddhanta. Okay. So we'll stop here. शिवन्नत्वा हि नागेशे नानिन्द्या परमालघुः वैयाकरणसिद्धान्तमञ्जूषैषा विरच्यते. So next class is on Wednesday, same time.